Hey everyone, welcome to BBT Tech. Today we're going to be looking at the IDOBAO ID80. This is a 75% hot swap gasket keyboard with a 6-degree typing angle. The keyboard is being offered in a transparent acrylic case and a smoked out version for $299 USD, but they generally go on sale for $259 to $269 depending on what case color you get. In the box, we're greeted with the keyboard itself, some Phillips screws, PCB foam for sound dampening, gasket foam strips, and cherry PCB mounted stabilizers that already has some factory pre-lube on the wires. And then lastly, a USB-C cable, and with this keyboard kit you don't get any extra options, so this is what you're gonna have. The IDOBAO ID80, in my opinion, is a very attractive keyboard, and just picking the keyboard up itself, it feels pretty well built, but more on that later in the video. Looking at the unbuilt weight of the IDOBAO ID80, it's coming in around 3 pounds, which is surprisingly hefty given the fact that it's made out of acrylic. Moving forward with the disassembly, we will have to remove all the bottom screws and then gently remove the top part of the case as well as the PCB end plate, as you could potentially scratch the acrylic case, but there's nothing too major to worry about here since it's not going to affect the use case of your keyboard. That brass weight is also removable, as well as the USB-C connection brass piece. To get started with the assembly, we have to insert the longer gaskets on the left and right side of the keyboard, whereas the shorter gaskets are used in the middle. Since the stabilizer is not plate mounted, we will have to install these next, and then we can add the PCB foam, which is not necessary, but I do recommend you guys using this as it does make the keyboard sound a lot better, more fuller in my opinion. Speaking of PCB foam, I do remember that there were mentions of case foams being included, however I did not get any in my keyboard, so maybe they might have done a change with this. Moving forward with screwing in the standoffs from the PCB to the brass plate, we would then mount the PCB and the plate to the bottom of the case, aligning it with the gaskets and then putting it all together with the top of the case. I generally like to do this first, and then I squeeze the case itself and then I flip it over, making sure I don't move anything around, and then putting in screws halfway in and then moving the PCB and plate within itself to see that it's lined up straight and there's nothing wonky going on here. Once putting everything together, I did notice some pretty big flaws with IDOBAO's gasket implementation. The gaskets made zero contact with the plate and PCB, and it being advertised as a gasket keyboard, this is not right. And then due to this, the PCB plate just kinda sits in the case with no support, resulting in the internals moving around the case, and also making the keyboard feel a little bit loose, since when typing on this keyboard, I noticed that the top right corners of the keyboard, when pressing down the keys, I can feel the PCB moving up and down and bottoming out on the bottom of the case. As well as even picking up the keyboard, you can feel that the internals are not securely fastened and they're moving around inside. So the fact that this makes zero contact with the PCB and plate, I do have to knock IDOBAO off some key points here on what they did with this keyboard. But with negatives aside, I do have to give them props for making a high quality acrylic case with minimal machining marks, and the PCB foam was actually pretty solid with precise cutouts from other vendors that I'm used to. Now for the sound test, I will be using stock stabilizers with some extra loop tuning on my end, and I'm going to be kitting this keyboard with some filmed Boba U4T switches, lubed with Tribosys 3204 for the first sound test, and the second sound test I'll be using the Dogikon switches, lubed with Krytox 205 grade 0, and both sound tests will be using PBT Islander keycaps. Now, in my opinion, I think this keyboard's alright. It's got the decent build quality and it looks good. And the sound isn't too bad, but I honestly can't recommend the keyboard until IDOBAO fixes the issues with the gaskets. For the gaskets to not make any contact with the PCB and plate, which is a large oversight that they mistaken for, at a price point of $259 USD, it's pretty steep for a keyboard that's not being represented as what is being advertised. But I will be keeping an updated pinned comment on any future updates from IDOBAO regarding the keyboard gaskets. But until then, I hope you guys have a great time watching this video, and until next time, don't forget to hit that sub button, and bye bye.